module 3, as I've stated earlier, and the topic that we'll be looking in this module is negotiation and conflict resolution. Nevertheless, we should not forget that in our previous module we have looked at the introduction to conflict and conflict resolution, and the meaning of conflict resolution and the likes, where we discuss we slightly branched to the meaning of negotiation. However, in this module we'll be extremely looking at the negotiation and conflict resolution. So the contents of the module contents, we have for the module contents, we have meaning of negotiation, the types of negotiation, and then under that we'll be looking at distributive negotiation, interrogative negotiation, and then we have multi-party negotiation, and finally the strategies of negotiation. So let's look at the introduction. We have negotiation is the foundational process through which individuals, groups, or nations resolve conflicts, allocate resources, and create agreements. Create agreements when their interests or goals appear incompatible. It is the foundational process. It is a process through which individuals resolve conflicts in short. So far more than simple haggling or bargaining, effective negotiation is a structured, interest-based dialogue. It comes in a form of dialogue mostly that is aimed at transforming opposing positions into mutually acceptable solutions that preserve or even strengthen relationships. So when negotiation is well done in a formal and well-structured way, it might even strengthen relationship even rather than preserving it. So negotiation can occur directly between the parties, as in everyday disputes or high-level diplomacy, or with assistance of neutral third parties. But in every form, it remains the most flexible and widely used method of conflict resolution. Yes, it remains the most flexible and the one that is mostly used when we are trying to end a conflict, that is conflict resolution. So let's look at the meaning of negotiation now. Negotiation is when two or more people or groups who want different things sit down, talk honestly, listen to each other, and try to find a deal or solution that works well enough for everyone, for both parties. So, and this negotiation has also been justified by different scholars, and we have, according to William, who is the leading negotiation scholar in international relations, he defined negotiation as a joint decision-making process in which parties with perceived divergent interests attempt to reach a mutually acceptable agreement through an exchange of offers, concessions, and commitments. So it is, according to him, if you want to explain what William means by this definition, is that negotiation is a joint decision making. It is not isolated. It requires the two parties coming together, joint decision making process in which the parties involved in this conflicts attempt to reach a mutually acceptable agreement, whereby they come to a neutral ground, whereby part A, Mr. A and Mr. B agree mutually, and this is done through exchange of offers. What do you have? I have this, then I also have this. Let's exchange, or let's do this so that we both can benefit. Then concession or commitment. Those are the means or ways in which this negotiation is done. Also, according to Roger Fisher, William Erie, and Bruce, they explain that negotiation is a basic means of getting what you want from others. It is back and forth communication that is designed to reach an agreement when you and the other side have some interests that are shared and others that are opposed. That is two different sides is called sides coming together to address what is on ground, and to also look at how they can meet on the neutral ground based on what they are lacking and what the other party, the other side has. So let's look at the types of negotiation. As it is known that negotiation is a vital skill for resolving disputes and conflicts and also creating value. It can take several distinct forms that shape the interaction between parties. This section will be introducing the major types of negotiation and explains the strategies and mindsets behind each. And we have under that, we have distributive negotiation, that is win, lose, or zero sum. We also have integrative negotiation, which entails win-win or positive sum, and multi-party negotiation. So let's look at let's look at these types of negotiation one after the other. We have distributive negotiation first. It can also be called distributive negotiation, can also be called competitive negotiation, or zero sum negotiation, or win lose negotiation, as it is a type of negotiation in which the parties are competing to divide a fixed amount of value or resources. Whatever one party gains, the other party loses by exactly the same amount. So it typically involves a single issues. For instance, a distributive negotiation in Nigeria is probably the most common and visible type of negotiation you encounter every day. It is the classic I win, you lose. That's why we call it win-lose haggling. I win, you lose haggling, where the total value is fixed and every naira one person gains is a naira the other person loses. So let's look at integrative negotiation. Integration negotiation can also be called collaborative or creating value negotiation. It works together to expand the pie before dividing it. That is, to expand what is on ground, the problem, to expand the benefits before dividing it. It is a collaborative approach where both parties work together to find creative solutions that satisfy the underlying needs and interests of everyone involved in this conflict, rather than fighting over a fixed amount of money or resources. Instead of seeing the negotiation as a zero-sum game, the parties treat it as a positive sum opportunity by sharing information, understanding each other's priorities, and inventing new options. They can often expand the pie and both walk away better off than they would have with a simple compromise. For example, in a salary negotiation, a purely distributive approach focuses only on the naira amount, but an integrative approach might add training opportunities, flexible working hours, performances bonus, transport allowance, or faster promotion tracks, creating more total value for both the employee and the employer without increasing the base salary. That's a good example of integrative negotiation, whereby we have a win-win factor or sector. So let's look at multi-party negotiation. Multi-party negotiation involves more than two parties. Just as the name implies, it is when three or more parties, individuals or companies and the like, sit at the same table to reach an agreement. Unlike one-on-one talks, it is far more complex because every additional party brings new different mindsets, veto power, and drama. So multi-party negotiation are extremely common in Nigeria and involve three or more distinct parties with different interests trying to reach a single agreement. A good example include family meetings where siblings, uncles, wives, and elders divide land or property left by a deceased parent. Niger Delta hosts communities, often 5 to 15 villages, youth groups, traditional rulers, and the likes. So now, and a global memorandum of understanding for jobs, scholarship, infrastructure, national minimum wage talks that brings together the federal government's NLC, that is the Nigeria Labour Congress, Trade Union Congress, the 36 states governor, and private sector bodies. ASU strike resolutions involving lecturers union, several ministries, and budgeting agencies. Political party primaries. That another example is political primaries, where dozens of aspirants, governor, party leaders, and delegates bargain over who becomes the consensus candidate. And also we have market relocation projects that force local governments, traders unions, transport unions, landowners, and youth groups to agree on the store allocation and levies. So let's look at the next subtopic under this module is strategies of negotiation. Negotiation strategies can be defined as the deliberate approaches that parties adopt to achieve their objectives while managing the tension between claiming value for themselves and creating or preserving value in the relationship. The most widely recognized strategies from a spectrum. At one end lies competitive bargaining, where negotiators use high opening demands, and limited concessions, bluffing, and time pressure to claim the largest possible share of a fixed pie. Best suited to one-off transaction when is low, At the opposite end is collaborative, so which focuses on uncovering underlying interest rather than fixed position and the like. So this is the strategies of strategies that is being used, that is employed when negotiating. So let's look at the conclusion part. Negotiation is the essential interest-based dialogue through which individuals, groups, or nations transform incompatible positions into mutually acceptable agreements. Whether it unfolds in a bustling Nigerian market, or a corporate boardroom, or a peace talks venue, the process hinges on three pillars, and we have diagnosing underlying interests, selecting constructive handling style, and employing empathetic non-blaming communication. The major types are distributive. The major types of negotiation was distributive, where we have win or lose; integrative, we have win-win; and multi-party negotiation, that we have been able to justify during the course of this in the previous content. So, in which each demand distinct strategies. That is, the demand will differentiate the strategies that will be employed, from competitive claiming of value to collaborative creation of value and coalition building. So thank you.